The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. The leader of Yemen's Houthis warns of a possible strike against U.S. warships if the Iranian-backed militia was targeted by Washington. Abdel Malek al-Houthi asserted they will not passively observe, but rather respond accordingly if the Americans contemplate further escalation. The Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen recently targeted international vessels in the Red Sea in response to Israel's actions in Gaza. In response, a U.S.-led security initiative involving 10 other, mostly NATO countries, was formed to patrol the Red Sea and deter future Houthi attacks. These attacks have already caused major global shipping lines to reroute around Africa.
فيما إذا كان لدى الأمريكي توجه أن يصعد أكثر وأن يورط نفسه أكثر أو أن يرتكب حماقة بالاستهداف لبلدنا أو بالحرب على بلدنا، فلن نقف مكتوف الأيدي. سنستهدفه هو، سنجعل البارجات الأمريكية والمصالح الأمريكية وكذلك الحركة الملاحية الأمريكية هدفا لصواريخنا.
Israeli forces uncovered a network of tunnels running deep beneath central Gaza City. The Israeli military released footage of the findings. The tunnels are accessed by spiral staircases and an elevator up to 20 meters below ground. They were also kitted out with electricity, plumbing, surveillance cameras, and heavy blast doors. A spokesperson of the Israeli military says the tunnels were found when soldiers secured a central area of the city. Israeli forces say the tunnel runs from properties registered to Yahya Sinwar and other senior Hamas organizers of the October 7 attack. An ally of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has landed in the South American country after a prison swap with the United States. Maduro's government is freeing at least 20 opposition-linked prisoners and 10 Americans in exchange for the U.S. release of Maduro's ally Alex Saab. Saab is a Colombian businessman who was granted clemency by U.S. President Joe Biden and sent back to Venezuela. U.S. prosecutors had accused Saab of siphoning off some $350 million from Venezuela in a scheme that involved bribing Venezuelan government officials. The White House has since indicated the need for advancements in prisoner releases to proceed with easing energy sanctions for Caracas. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. A former TV journalist applies to run for the presidential elections in Russia. 40-year-old Yekaterina Duntsova put her name forward for the polls, which President Vladimir Putin is expected to win by a landslide. She submitted documents at the Central Electoral Commission to formally enter the presidential race. In an earlier interview with Reuters, Duntsova called for an end to the conflict with Ukraine. She also called for the release of political prisoners, including opposition leader Alexei Navalny.
Why are we talking about permission if this is my right according to the law and I have that possibility and have the necessary qualities to put myself forward, including in the framework of the law? We are just moving ahead according to the formula prescribed by federal law, and for that, we don't need anyone's permission.
Thousands of people took to the streets of Buenos Aires to oppose the government's economic shock measures. The protesters made their way to the main Plaza de Mayo Square, a historic meeting point in front of the presidential palace. Argentina's new libertarian president Javier Milei earlier promised to slash public spending and announced sweeping plans to reform the economy. Just last week, Milei announced a 54% devaluation of peso currency, cuts to subsidies, and the closure of some government ministries. The protest, led by groups that represent the unemployed, is the first major demonstration against Milei's government. Let's now take a quick look at other stories we're watching. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the country's relations with India have undergone a tonal shift. This comes after U.S. warned New Delhi about its involvement in a thwarted plot to kill a Sikh separatist leader on U.S. soil. Poland's new government took a public news channel off the air to restore, quote, impartiality. A 24-hour news channel, TVP Info, had allegedly become a mouthpiece of the right-wing former government. And Ukrainians gear up to celebrate their first December 25th Christmas according to Western calendar. The country's main church has agreed to move away from the Julian calendar, which is used in Russia. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.